today, I'm going to teach you how to get out of a situation, how to go through transformation, just like I did through the 3 steps. We're going to go through these 3 steps today in my presentation. And by the end, you will also feel like you have the capacity to change any situation, no matter how powerless you might feel. Boom, you have a 60-minute keynote.
Wow. You're magic.
I know. Stupid. Thank you. I love this stuff. One, because I love stories, and I love the moment. I'm kind of a little bit of a crack addict when it comes to this. I love seeing the moment that you just had in the story where you got into your story, you got lost into your story, and you realized oh my God, that was the moment. And then the even better part is now that you can use that moment to help thousands of people.
Yeah.
It's all worth it. The crisis is not worth it unless you learn the lesson and then share the lesson. So you get to give that little gangly girl in that room, I'm assuming it was gangly. She's gangly in my mind.
Oh, she was gangly. Yeah.
You get to just hanging out. You get to give her the gift of it all being worth it.
Welcome to Side Note, the podcast, where we get real about what it takes to actually build something meaningful. I'm sitting down with power players and thought leaders to explore what makes us tick. From deep psychology to cosmic insight, from entrepreneurial wisdom to intuitive, divine feeling breakthroughs. Because success is about way more than what's in the business books. So join me for conversations that'll change the way you think about business, life, and everything in between. All right, so today's episode with Aleya Harris is one of the highest energy episodes that I think we've recorded. And she is such a master of storytelling. And the stories that she tells in this episode are so captivating. Even when we were recording, I remember just being on edge, like, what happens next? Wait, what? It's like she has a magic to her that is undeniable. And I really hope you enjoy this episode. I hope you also start to think about stories that you can tell as a business owner, like what is meaningful to you? What are the stories that your audience is looking for? And how do you craft that? And she breaks it down and actually leads me through telling my own story, which was hard to tell at the time, but I am finding a lot of peace and openness with being vulnerable in storytelling. So get ready for this episode and enjoy Aleya Harris and I's conversation. Aleya, I'm so excited you're here, and I'm so excited to chat with you.
I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be an awesome discussion. I have a feeling we're going to be talking about some of my favorite things. So I'm excited.
Amazing. Well, first, I'd love for you to give an intro to our listeners. I know that you just published a book and you have a lot of exciting things happening, so share it.
I sure did just publish a book, and I'm very proud that it became a best-selling book. Yeah, whoop, 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 whoop. The book, sometimes you got to do your own whoop whoops. The book is called Spark the Stage, Master the Art of Professional Speaking and Authentic Storytelling to Captivate, Inspire, and Transform Your Audience. It's all about not letting self-doubt keep you out of the spotlight and learning how to turn your life experiences into a compelling message that captivates, motivates, and leaves a lasting impact. My goal when you read the book is for you to overcome fear, inspire audiences, and become the confident, authentic speaker that you've dreamed of. You can buy the book on Amazon, or you can head over to aleyaharris.com/book to make your purchase, and then also leave a review after you do. Those reviews really help. While we're at it, talking about reviews, we love reviews. You're listening to Samantha and me. You already love it. It's the beginning of the episode. While you're listening, go on ahead and leave a review for Samantha's podcast. Because reviews really help. They take 5 minutes of your time, but they could mean huge opportunities for the person that you are reviewing. So review Samantha's podcast, buy my book and review it, and let's be besties. So that'll happen. That'll happen there. Another thing that I have, so the book, I have a book called Spark the Stage. I have a course that's also called Spark the Stage, where if you're reading the book and you're like, am I doing it right? Well, then you take the course, then you'll know that you're doing it right, because I'll tell you whether you're doing it right or not, because you'll get to talk to me and I can tell you what you're doing will get you on the stage, or we'll have people enamored with you or not. So those are the two things I'd like to mention. You can check out the course at aleyaharris.com/spark, ALEYAHARRIS.com/spark.
Amazing. And we'll put those in the show notes. I love the energy already. Wow, hyping up the reviews. We really do read every single review. Like when we get a review, we do a little happy dance behind our computer or phone.
Oh my gosh. Like I remember this is gonna sound ridiculous. So you write a book, right? And the ultimate goal of writing the book is so strangers get to know you and you can help them and inspire. But you start off like anything with your family and your friends and things like that. I remember the first review I got from a stranger. I called my publishing consultant, like, oh my God, what do I do? Like, do I follow him on LinkedIn? Do I because there's no way to say thank you or reply on Amazon. You can click like, I found this helpful. And that's it. That's all you can do. I thought, yeah, that's it. That's it. And like I cried. I called my mama.
Aww.
Like, so you guys, like reviews are not just like, oh yeah, I know I'm so fabulous. Let me, have you tell me how fabulous I am. No, 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 no. They really do make a difference. For my podcast, for the books, any of the things. If you want to make an entrepreneur's day on today, go and find somebody to review.
Yeah, it's a little gift.
It's a little gift. Costs you nothing.
Yeah.
Costs you nothing.
I love it. So with the book and with the Spark the Stage 6-week course and all the work that you're doing too, when I really dove in and did some research on you, it looks like you had a couple of different.
You stalked me? Oh,
I was so I stalk all my guests.
Oh my God, guys. Okay, what did you find? What did you find? What did you find?
Okay, you were a chef.
I was a chef. I was.
And you had some work in spirituality.
Mm-hmm.
And
yes, I have / do. Yes.
Right, that's a part of your current work still. You've that thread into this.
I pulled it through. I've had to workshop the name to make y'all actually buy it, but now it's still in there. But I hid it a little deeper. I was out in the open and people were a little scared, so I hid it so I can just help you be better without you knowing it right away.
Yep. Yeah. I want to talk about that. I also want to talk about your experience as a chef and just how these different components have made, like different lessons that you've had from these different eras have made their way into your current work.
Oh my gosh, this is like,
it's a big question.
It's a big question. And it's one that I have an answer to, but you're going to have to let me talk for a little bit. Are you okay? I'm going to talk for a little bit to answer this
Let's start with the chef and then we'll.
Oh, okay. Because I was like, you have asked me for a whole keynote speech on this podcast with that question. I was like, do you know what you just asked me?
Let's start with one lesson from your chef era.
See, now we're getting it. The one lesson from my chef era is that I realized I couldn't build my own empire while I was in the middle of somebody else's. So I worked for celebrities on stage and screen, household names. I traveled all over the world as their private chef. And I was part of the entourage. And no matter how many banquets I attended, just so the sheer fact to help people order things that fit their dietary whatever, or how many one-of-a-kind, once-in-a-lifetime experiences I had, I was still the help. And the service industry is a proud industry to be part of. There are people in the service industry that exemplify excellence and love and care and dedication. The problem was I wasn't one of them. Don't get me wrong, I was very good at my job, but I resented myself for being there because I knew that I wasn't a fit. The people that are excellent in the service industry are fit. They have found their calling and they treat it almost like a ministry rather than just a job.
Yeah.
And part of it was ministry for me. The part when I realized like that I had the ability to transmit love through food, that was when I realized that was part of my ministry. And then after that, and over the years after that, I realized that it wasn't just food. It was, I have an ability to find the work that I'm doing at the moment and use it as an excuse, no matter what it is, to love people into the highest versions of themselves. And if it hadn't been for my experience with food, which was a very tangible way to see that, I would have never had that aha moment and been where I am now. But I was not a good fit for the service industry, because while that was a great aha moment, the rest of it, bunch of crap. It's a bunch of crap I could have done without.
Yeah.
So I did without it. And I moved on from there. But I realized that not only when I say build my empire, I don't just mean make oodles of money, which I'm very open to, Samantha. I'm very open to making oodles of money. But it's also being the energetic sovereign of the empire of Aleya. So you, Samantha, are the energetic sovereign of the empire of Samantha. You get to decide the type of energy you're building, you're cultivating, you're letting in, and you're letting out. And when I was there, so much of my energy, I didn't have the skills at the time to manage that within myself. And I felt listless, often pulled to be what somebody else needed or wanted me to be at the time, without a grounding and an anchor within my radically authentic self, the omnipotent part, the part that knows, sees, understands, provides guidance. That part of me was underdeveloped. So I needed to be able to not only grow the empire of money, but also grow the empire of Aleya to the point where I was worthy of being the sovereign of my own empire, and understanding that that worthiness was innate within myself, regardless of what I did or what somebody did to me. So being a chef, and at the caliber of chef I was, at the level of chef that I worked, I was able to see that, because it's also a world that is full of contrast. Some of the people who we look up to that are the brightest stars are the loneliest humans. They have lots of people around them, but they um, feel like there's no one.
Yeah.
And that, I saw that very, very, very quickly. And that became one of my ministries, I guess you could say, to help them feel less alone, and to use the tool I had at the time, which was food. I remember one multi-bazillionaire, I don't even know how many zeros this man had. All I know is that I got locked in his house one time and had to call a maid to come and find me,
Oh
because
my gosh.
I was somewhere in between the bowling alley and the ballroom, and I didn't know how to find my way back to the kitchen.
Oh,
Like,
wow. A labyrinth.
oh yes, oodles of money, but a really sweet guy. Old family money. He's in his 30s, maybe. Young guy. And one day he came home with a jar of Prego, like the tomato sauce.
Mm-hmm.
And I was at first like, oh no, this dude did not just walk up in my kitchen with a jar of Prego. Either he's about to be a dick for the first time, I'm about to be offended, or I'm getting fired and this is his elaborate way of doing it, and I am not going to appreciate whatever comes out of this man's mouth next. That was what I was thinking about. And it was none of those things.
Oh.
Thank goodness. He came in. I did get fired later, but that's another story that dealt with a jealous girlfriend, and I just looked good. I didn't do nothing. I promise that. That's another story for another day. Back to the Prego. He came in a hard day, and he said, "Can you make this for me?" And I was like, "With noodles? Like, what are we talking here?" And he said, "Yeah, I come from a lot of money, but my mom was a really good mom, but she didn't know how to cook. And so when we had a hard day, she would tell the chef that she was going to make Prego and noodles, because the only thing she knew how to cook. And
Oh.
that was my comfort food. It reminds me of my mom. It reminds me of home. It reminds me of the moments that I spent with her. And he goes, "Can you make this for me?" And it was probably the most expensive bowl of pasta, Prego pasta he's ever had, right? I'm like, "You're still paying me my normal hourly day rate." I don't remember how it was structured, but I'm like, "I'll do whatever you want to, man. I'm here." And he ate it. And what struck me, one, was how wonderful and beautiful of a story that is, but two was watching him eat it. And no, I wasn't like creepy staring at the man, but I was there. And watching his everything transform, watching his shoulders get lighter, watching his brow unfurl, watching his light and his energy shift and change because he had a tangible experience of the memory of the love, and that love became something that was in the past and moved to something that was in the present. And that was when I realized what people could do for other people, whether it's through food, whether it's through coaching, whether it's through guitar lessons or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm not the only one that does that. Other people can do that if we focus on doing that for each other.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. It's so fascinating that you were able to identify that too and see,
Mm.
oh, this is the thing that really means something to me. And I may stop working with food, but I'm going to carry this on. And clearly, I know I'm like bursting with this, and all our listeners can probably pick up on this, but you're an excellent storyteller. Like you
Thank you.
have a such a skill for structuring the story and speaking it in a way that is so engaging, where you're, as a listener, you're hanging on to every word. So how did you build that skill?
I also like to be very authentic and honest. So there's a balance here that happens. One, I've always been a talker. Doesn't mean I know how to structure a story, but I was always a talker. I was a kid in school that got in trouble for whispering because I was doing it quite often and didn't know how to do it quietly. I was the loudest whisperer on the planet. So there's that.
This was your whispering.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Very accurate. Were you there? I think you were there. You know, well, you did some real in-depth research, Samantha. Exactly what my whispers sounded like. So there's that comes. So I want to draw that because there's different types of gifts. There's gifts that you earn from crises and difficult experiences, that the lessons and the new tools that you have become a gift. Then there are your innate gifts that you're born with. I was innately born with the gift of gab, to be as trite and cliche as possible. That doesn't mean that people want to hear you talk, though, right?
Yeah.
But you can talk. That doesn't mean that
You're good at it.
right, you're any good at it. It just means that you have the ability to move your tongue and your mouth in coordinated synchronicity here. That's all that really means. Then, though, you layer that on with the fact that I became a StoryBrand certified guide. So I was StoryBrand certified in February 2020. And I studied that story structure. And then as the years have progressed, I've studied other story structures and developed my own for public speaking and especially telling stories around crises in a business environment and using them to become authentic. So any story, I'm a firm believer in this. One, everyone has a story. Two, any story when put in a structure is much more powerful than anything without a structure so you can follow it. And three, when you are relating back to something that the listener actually cares about, then you have something that people want to hear. So I have the natural gift of gab, which people may or may not have. And so then if you're listening to me, the first thing that people say to discount themselves as not being a storyteller is, or not being a speaker, especially is, oh, well, but I'm, an introvert. I'm not really a natural talker. Oh, I just, do I have anything to say? Blah, 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 blah. All of those are excuses. So let's just get that out of the way and be honest with ourselves. Okay.
Yeah, you can be a speaker and an introvert.
At the same time, yes. I'm glad we're just gonna do some audible saging here of that idea. We're gonna get that right out of the way, clear that right on out of the space. So apart from having a natural gift, when you use a story structure, you become a lot more powerful. So I don't think about it consciously anymore because I use story structure so much. But if I think back now, if I had to analyze the story that I just told you, I have things like the problem that was highlighted, the way that the guide stepped in to the situation. I think I might have highlighted some stakes. I talked about what success looked like. I talked about, so you think about the elements of story, and when you put them in, and then you modulate your voice, and you pause for effect. All of those things together is what makes a good storyteller. in addition to the thing that I don't want people to forget, there has to be a reason why someone needs to listen to your story. Mm-hmm. If you aren't saying anything worthwhile, doesn't matter how structured it is, no one cares.
Right. Yeah. It will fall on deaf ears.
It will fall on deaf ears. The biggest mistake that speakers make is thinking that because they're wearing the nice outfit and they're the ones in the spotlight, that the experience is about them. And that's very much not true. I mean, yeah, I look great in some lipstick in a spotlight. Like, if you're listening and you're looking for a storyteller who looks amazing on stage in lipstick and a spotlight, give me a call. But that's not why people pay me 5 figures to speak. It's because I make the experience a collaborative, co-created experience. And when you leave, you feel like you are a part of something. You participate in something. I was telling you a story, but so were you, part of that story that I was telling you, and we're doing it together. And by the end, you now know how to take the story and the experience and change your own individual story, because everyone's going on their own hero's journey.
Right.
So, what were you saying? Sorry.
They're moved. Yeah. After listening.
They're moved. And let's break down what that means. Because moved, you can be emotionally moved, as in there was an emotional stirring, which is very important. Nothing happens if it's just I intellectually understand something. I need to emotionally feel, emotionally stirring.
Yes.
Most things stop there. Like, I don't know if you've ever been to a Black church, seen one on TV. We will hoop and holler. I don't really go to church anymore. I go to lots of other spiritual experiences, but not the typical Christian church, but I used to. And man, it's a good time. You go hoop and holler, music going, Jesus, God, love it. And there are some beautiful souls, some wonderful sermons, blah, 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 and stuff. A fabulous experience. You leave on a high. Yes, I'm going to go and be a better human being this week. Then you get it out to the parking lot. And then the same person who's sitting next to you in church is cussing out her kids in the parking lot. We didn't even get out the parking lot, Samantha. Didn't even get out the parking lot. And you're like,
oh man.
The emotional movement that happened in that person, because they were up praise dancing right next to me. Holy Ghost caught them too. And we still cussing out the kids in the park. So it's more than just the emotional movement that needs to happen when you're giving someone a speech. You need to then give them what to do next. Show them what happens if they don't, right? A lot of times church does do that. A lot of the times it doesn't, right? 90% of the time speakers don't do any of that.
Yeah.
Right? You get one element here and there. My God, I was at a conference recently, which will remain unnamed. Oh, there were some of the brightest people there from some of the biggest companies. Right? I'm not even going to name the companies just in case they find me, because I probably want them as clients at some point in time. So we're not going to name them, but the big companies, the kind that like everyone around the world knows.
Yeah.
And these people who you could tell were bright, you could tell were almost a little nervous, and they were high up in these companies, gave the most boring talk I have ever heard in my childhood. And you could tell they were not boring people. You get like little cues, like they got like fun socks on, or like you've heard them talking a little bit earlier in the day about them like skiing or something. Like you can tell they do things in their lives. They're normal humans. But on that stage, they had no elements of story.
The amount of speeches I've heard at conferences or even weddings where I'm like, you did not put any real thought into this, and you really need help in terms of the delivery.
Yeah, delivery.
Oh,
the delivery. Because you can, if you know, going back to what you said, if you don't move people, you don't stir people emotionally, nothing's going to happen. If you only give them data, nothing's going to happen. Yep. If you only give them action steps, nothing's going to happen. You just don't seem bossy. Yeah. You need all of it together, mixed up. And people and entrepreneurs, they don't understand why you need to do the emotion part.
Yeah.
The personal part, the connection part.
Yes.
And that's the part that sells. People shop to solve the problem that they understand in their head. People buy to understand the problem that they have in their heart.
Yeah.
So I'm going to shop, like, let's say, like, I use this example all the time, but this is a very clear one. Let's say I am a homeowner and I have a lawn. It's all right. It's not horrible. It's all right. Maybe some patches here and there, but who's checking? You know who's checking? Bill next door. Bill is a pain in the ass. Bill is the kind of dude who's out with his grass with a pair of scissors every other day, and it's the brightest, inhumanely green that you've ever seen. You're sure he ships like llama poop in to fertilize it or something ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
Exactly, right, right. Something's wrong with the grass. It's too perfect. And it would be okay. You'd be okay with Bill's grass if Bill kept his mouth shut.
Right.
But then Bill hangs over the fence and starts talking about your grass. You didn't have a problem with your grass before. The intellectual issue that you saw that there were brown spots, but it didn't really move you into action until you decided that somebody needed to shut this man up once and for all. And Bill needed to just have an understanding that he is not the only one that can grow grass on the planet. Okay. So that's why you called a landscape architect, not because there were brown spots, but because you felt annoyed, you felt embarrassed, you felt competitive, you felt, see the word that I'm using, feeling words. Mm-hmm. Feelings urge you to go do the research, make the purchase, right? Spend the money. All of us have a bill we want to shut up some way, shape, or form, right?
Right. An internal bill.
An internal bill. Oh, yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you're not talking to everyone's internal bill when they're sitting there, the thing that is causing them the emotional problem, then you're not going to get them to buy from you or even listen to the end. Like I walked out of several of the sessions. I just couldn't do it because I was like, what's more disrespectful? Sitting in here and falling asleep in this man's face or leaving pretending I just really needed to pee. I chose the really needing to pee. I was trying to be as nice as possible because I understand getting up there is not easy to do. So I'm not judging that person, but I am judging the fact that no one thought that they needed any help.
Right. Because it's not like most speakers, for everyone's background knowledge, there's a team of people that have either gotten that person up there or who are organizing the conference. If you're organizing the conference, you want your speakers to be engaging because you want people to have a good time and come back. So there's a lot of people involved, and that doesn't even start to mention the person's teams or company, or if they have a PR person or coaches or consultants. So it's like, why didn't anyone in this large team of people around this person say something?
Say something. If you see something like someone who's about to bomb, say something. And like, let's talk about that. Let's say you are that person. And you might be, and you might think that I'm a horrible person, that I'm all up in your grill right now. And I'm not, I promise. I have a lot of empathy for you, right?
Yeah.
That person then gets off the stage feeling like crap because they're thinking the same thing that you just said, Samantha. I had all these people around me. Why didn't they help me?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Or I know that I'm not a great public speaker, but I'm talking about a niche topic. I'm the only one. And golly, I don't know how to make the audience not stare at me like I have three heads. Yeah. I don't know where to go for help. I happen to have a suggestion. I think that she's great. Her name's Aleya Harris. You should totally go to her for some help. But even if you don't come to me, there's a couple things that you can do if this is you. If you're the one that's on stage boring people to death and you don't want to, or you're the one who can't even get on stage, here's what you need to do. First of all, find a story structure for your talk. Second of all, you need to use more personal stories to which you want to turn off this podcast episode. Don't do that. Bear with me. Stay with me. Because you need to listen to this so you can leave a review. So at least keep it on with me. People connect with humans. In COVID, this was especially made obvious. We are craving something that breaks through the noise. Everyone's craving, well, how do I stand out? How do I stand out? How do I stand out? You already have it. Your company as a whole. Oh, go ahead.
They also can't find their story. A lot of people are like, I don't know what to talk about. I know I
I
need to talk.
don't
I don't know what the story is.
I agree with you. And there's two camps in that. There's the ones who are willing to talk about anything, but there's way too many options, and they're just like, I don't know what to pick. I don't know how to relate it to the thing I want to talk about. Then there's the majority of people that are intentionally ignorant. They know exactly what they should be talking about. They just don't want to.
Mm,
Why would I talk about that? That would make me feel too exposed. Why would I say that? I can't say that in a corporate sense because what will people think about me? Or if I say this, it has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. So why, as a professional, would I say these things? And I see you. I do. All y'all that are saying all these things. I thought that too, actually. So I should say all of us who were saying these things. I went through a incredibly difficult postpartum journey when I had my daughter. I was in deep postpartum depression and anxiety for about 11 months. And I got to the point where I just felt compelled to tell my story because I was alone, I was isolated, my revenue was tanking, and I didn't have much to lose, right? It's kind of like sometimes when you make the best decisions is when you don't have anything to lose. Why not? Hey, why not? You take bigger risks.
right.
Got on the internet and I told little pieces of my story. And the DMs and the calls and the texts that I got just kept coming. And they were not, what have you done? Or, oh, woe is you, poo, 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 like that kitty that feels weird and cringy.
Right.
It was mostly, thank you so much. I went through this. I didn't have the words to explain it. Thank you for giving me the words. Thank you so much. My partner is going through this and I didn't understand because she couldn't explain it. She's in it. She couldn't explain it. I didn't know how to support her.
Right.
Thank you so much for painting a different view of motherhood because I want to be a mother, but everything seems fake. And it kind of does. Whoever the PR person for motherhood is should be paid exorbitant sums of money because it all sounds like skipping through fields and rubbing bellies and kissing perfect children. It is none of those things. However, we
Yeah.
all think it is, and the Gen Z folks and younger millennials are like, that doesn't seem right because they're real good at spotting crap.
Right.
So they're like, that doesn't seem right. Something's wrong. I don't want to do it. And for all of you listening, like, that's great. That's your story. We're talking about personal story that I'm trying to make some money. I made a lot of money. That was not my intention. You know why I made a lot of money? It wasn't because I had a whole bunch of moms come and flock to me and now I only work with mothers. It was because, and these are directly said from the clients who paid me money, we felt like you stood out because I felt like I could talk to you. You felt like
Mm,
a real human. You felt like someone who could get it. If you could tell that story and show up for yourself in that way, I knew you could show up like that for us.
yeah.
So think about that the next time you have your story and you're either intentionally ignorant or not. What is it that you really need to tell?
I think that's a good question to sit with because I'm thinking,
Yeah.
it's so easy for me to spot those stories with clients.
Mhm.
I meet them, I see it, it's obvious. But for yourself, it's way harder. Like I'm reflecting right now and I'm like, I don't know. I have 1,000 stories. I don't know the one I would bring to a stage.
Oh, no, you don't just bring one. Are you kidding me? Bring a bunch of them. So the first thing you need to do is to collect your crises and write down a bunch of them. And everything from, I've had students write down everything from falling off their bike. And actually, that same student, Bequeath Moore, she was in Spark the Stage. Her primary story that she used to kick off her keynote was about falling off her bike, busting her lip, and the rejection she got from her older sister, and how that became a core memory of her being unlovable and ugly. She then took that story, and produce my very first speaking event this past weekend and put her on stage to tell that story, and people were in tears. She only spoke for like 7 minutes. And they weren't in tears because of this kid who busted her lip and had a scar on her lip. They were in tears because of her journey to feeling more worthy and feeling more lovable and feeling like she could do anything. And then the life that she created from it, as in her words, she became a possibilitarian. Everything is possible for me all of the time. 100% of things are possible for me 100% of the time. That's what she said. So when you're able to take your crises, they don't have to be huge. They don't have to be like surviving cancer. They can be something small, but it's more about what did the lesson of that crisis teach you. So write them all down.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that you'd be surprised. Like I did this for myself and there were like 30
Okay.
that I could talk about. And in any keynote, I'm going to tell at least three.
Okay.
So, and it depends on the audience, right? So I might swap one out for the other, depending on how the lesson relates to the controlling idea of the talk and the general theme. But you're never ever just going to tell one story and be about one story, because humans are not one story. Without our stories, we're nothing as humans. And if
Right.
you're only telling one story, then you're only ever showing one side of yourself, and that becomes false. That is the antithesis of building the authentic connection that you need to work with the audience and make that money and show up in a way that is differentiated, because you are differentiated. That's where the differentiation comes from, is the stories that you tell. No one else has lived your life. So no one else can tell those stories. You're looking for a
Yeah.
way to stand out. Well, that's it, my friend.
Right. And there's two things that are coming to mind. One is that this is also very applicable if you're not looking to get on a stage, but like for sales, like people want to connect with people. They don't want to connect with a robot message that you've said 1,000 times, right? So there's also an opportunity for all of this to be baked into other areas of business. And then the other thing that came up when you were speaking was my story and a bit more about that. And I think one bubbled up to the surface, which was being bullied as a kid, verbally, not
Mm.
physically, but those cut deep. And
Oh, yeah.
I felt really isolated for about 4 or 5 years as a kid. And like I didn't have any friends, and the friends that were around me were incredibly cruel. So it's interesting to see the contrast now, because I am very passionate about creating spaces where people feel they can belong. In my
Mm.
career,
So
I think,
then what did you do, if you could put it into the three steps?
yeah.
We're going to build this story just in case you didn't realize what was happening. What are the three things that you did to go from the person who was bullied to the person who protects those who are bullied? How did you make that transformation?
I think first step was getting out of that space, right? So seeing other
Mm.
areas where I wanted to go. I think at a certain point, I was like you were saying before with, postpartum depression, it's like at a certain point, you're like, what do I have to lose?
Mm.
Well, I don't have these friends
Exactly.
anymore. Okay, well, great. That's probably a good thing.
Yeah. What was the second thing you did? You got out of that space.
I started to, in threads, in very small steps, let myself be seen. And at first, that was, maybe we're having, like, I joined like dance and cheer in high school, which is crazy because that's so anti my personality at the time. I was very shy. And these are very, like, outgoing,
Outgoing. Yeah. You
extroverted,
can't
like,
hide on
people.
the cheer squad.
No, you
Yeah.
can't hide on a stage, even if you're in
Nope.
a group. And so I became much more comfortable with being seen, letting my like weird self come out, the jokes, the humor that I think got locked down before. And
So
then
then what was the third thing you did to make the shift then to now realizing that you needed to help other people?
that's when I saw that in my career at the very end when I quit my job, because I saw that I was coaching founders and CEOs, and I was helping them do a similar thing and helping them not become robots, become more comfortable with the parts of themselves that were uncomfortable, and then seeing that change. And then I was like, that's what I want to do for a living. That's what I want.
Mm. So the first step was you got out of the situation. The second step was you stepped into the uncomfortable places to show up in a new way. And the third thing was that you had the internal realization that you had a higher calling that you were seeing happening around everyone else that you were doing. And then you stepped fully into that as your
Yes.
transition. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the story. Think about, and normally when we're not on a podcast episode, I say think about the worst point of the story. So, but if you don't want to share that right now because you're totally put on the spot, think about a memorable point. Think about a specific day, a specific time, a specific moment when
Yeah.
you were bullied, and it was like the moment where you said either enough is enough, or it was your lowest where you felt the saddest.
Mm. There is one moment that comes up, and it's interesting because I think at this point, if someone were to be reflecting, it's like, where is that vulnerability line, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think I actually can't remember a single point of pain, but I do remember a single point of drive for something else. And I think I just got fed up, like it compounded over time and just eventually was like, what am I doing? But there wasn't necessarily a pinnacle of pain, but I do remember dance tryouts coming up. And I remember just feeling this like, I'm going to make that and I'm going to be in that group. I'm deciding right now that this is going to happen. And then it did. And it was the first of many times where my drive kicked on and I made something happen that who knows, chances are kind of
Changed.
wow. Yeah. But it,
Yeah, yeah. But I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I think that was probably somewhere between your step one and your step two.
yeah.
I'm kind of looking for a step zero moment.
Interesting.
Like the point where it was the thing that you can remember that, like, oh, wow. Like, so there's this one guy I'm working with. We're going to come back to your story. You're not off the hook. I'm giving you this example so that you can think about yourself. We're circling back,
This is
Samantha.
hard. Okay.
It is hard. It is hard. And I'm glad that you said that because what you said early on is that you're like, oh, you're so good at telling stories. Yeah, I've been doing it for years. Years. What Samantha's going through right now, y'all. Sorry I realize this is not my podcast. I do know it's not my podcast, but what Samantha's going through now is what you will go through. Ooh, I don't want to say that. Ooh, well, I don't remember that. Which Samantha, with the most love, was that intentional ignorance piece we were talking about.
That's what it looks
That's
like.
what
There
it
it
looks like.
is.
There it is. You're going to go through everything that Samantha's going through, who is bravely didn't know she was going to do this on today, showing up in the most real and brave way. Another reason that what you could do, leave a review for the podcast. I'm telling you, you're not getting this anywhere else. Okay, Samantha, I'm going to give you a minute to have a beat. I'm going to tell a story.
Okay.
There's a guy who I'm working with who his story, after I coach him, I always kind of have to sit in silence first. He's been addicted to drugs for 30 years, on and off, been arrested, been homeless on Skid Row in LA. I think it's been 4 times. And he's started a nonprofit now. And he's getting asked to tell his story. And he goes, which one? Like, you want to talk about a life full of stories. This man has heartbreaking story after heartbreaking story after heartbreaking in the way that the things that he's seen, and also the self disappointments of the I'm clean, I'm not clean, I'm clean, I'm not clean. But it's just, where do you start? And we narrowed it down to Carl's Jr. bathroom. And it was a moment when this was one of the times he was still on drugs and homeless. And he was going to a Carl's Jr. bathroom, and you had to pay a quarter to get in the bathroom. He didn't even have the quarter. He had to go ask someone and beg for the quarter to get into the Carl's Jr. bathroom to wash up. And he remembered the moment where he hadn't seen himself in a mirror in a long time, he said. And he looked up in the mirror after wiping the dirt off of his face and saw a man he didn't recognize.
Mm.
He was thin, he was sad, and he said that he saw the darkness around him. And it was looking himself in the mirror in that Carl's Jr. bathroom that gave him the motivation to get clean and stay clean for one of the largest stretches that he stayed clean in his life. And he said that he looked at himself and he made a promise to himself that day in the mirror that the next time that he looked in the mirror, it would be at someone that he recognized. And he would see someone that he could be proud of looking back at him.
That's powerful.
Right. And you notice if you tell the story another way, you know, homeless guy pays a quarter, goes in the bathroom, washes up, looks himself in the mirror, sees the dirt's off, and he leaves. That's what everybody else saw, right?
Yeah.
There's ways of telling the story. Now, Samantha, did you have a second to pause and think?
I got it. I got it. It came in. I needed an example.
So it does. Do you have something similar? What could have been your story zero moment? What could have been your Carl's Jr. bathroom moment?
My Carl's Jr. bathroom. Yeah, it was so there was one girl that I was friends with in middle school who I kind of viewed her as like the nicest friend that I had, the longest standing one. Like she was my best friend, and it was more of the others that were bullies. But we were kind of distant. We were slowly distancing over middle school. And I remember there was this one day and she was just buddy buddy with this other girl. And it was kind of this official moment of we're not really best friends anymore. She's in this whole other group, and who I thought was kind of a friend life raft was gone. And I remember
Oh,
riding the bus to school and just feeling so alone and like staring out the window and just it sounds cliche, but it's true. And I like remember the day and it was sunny. And then I came home to my very bright pink room that had like yellow hibiscus flowers because
nice.
was trying this surf girl identity that wasn't really
I like
sticking.
it. I like it. But I like the trying it on.
Yeah, I was trying it on. I was trying to be cool. I was trying to like find acceptance. And I just remember being like, there's something else. There's a new identity. This isn't me. This pink isn't me. These people aren't me. My best friend at the time, she's not me anymore. And then that's when things started to change.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the Carl's Jr. moment. Did everybody hear it? Everybody heard it? I heard it. Yes, Samantha,
Oh,
great job. Great job.
thank you.
You also said something that I want everybody else to hear because you did something that everyone does. You said, I know this is a little cliche, but because we all think that a story or a part of a story has been told before. We can totally see the music video right now, right?
Right.
And so that means that it's not powerful. Oh, no, girl, there's a reason why the same stories get told over and over and over again with different faces in different places. They're
Mhm.
powerful every time. And I saw it. I saw you on that bus. I saw you looking out of the window. I saw that little gangly girl coming home, looking at her room and having that point of realization. I saw it and it touched me. Y'all can't see me. I don't think they can see me in this video happening. I don't
There
know.
will be YouTube, yeah.
Oh, no. Okay. Well, hey, I felt it in my heart when I saw the moment of you looking around and having that transformation. So the way you would structure the story is, let's say you're having I'm going to make up the rest of it for the sake of the length of this podcast episode. Really, this is for you because whether it seems like it or not, I do know that you are the host of this episode. So let's say that you're having a whole talk and you have a 3-step plan how to help people transform in business, right? That's the purpose of this keynote is business transformation, personal transformation, change management, something like that. You could then kick off your keynote. And the very first thing that comes out of your mouth is the most important thing. You could say something along the lines of, I remember standing in the Cheeto smelling hallway, realizing that my life as I knew it was coming to an end. And in order to resurrect myself, I was going to have to completely change everything I knew. Right? Something like that. That's on the fly. You probably do better with some thought. say that first line. You tell that the whole story all the way to the pink high. Well, no, it was yellow, pink room, yellow hibiscus. Tell all of that, right?
Yeah.
Then you tell those three things that you just said, right? The way that I realized you say I've been bullied, I've been this horrible thing happened. And the way I got out of it was doing one, two, three. And today, I'm going to teach you how to get out of the situation, how to go through transformation, just like I did through the three steps. We're going to go through these three steps today in my presentation. And by the end, you will also feel like you have the capacity to change any situation, no matter how powerless you might feel.
Mm.
Boom, you have a 60-minute keynote.
Wow. You're magic.
I know. Stupid. Thank you. I love this stuff. One, because I love stories and I love the moment. I'm kind of a little bit of a like crack addict when it comes to this. I love seeing the moment that you just had in the story where you got into your story, you got lost into your story, and you realized, like, oh my God, that was the moment. And then the even better part is now that you can use that moment to help thousands of people.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it's all worth it. The crisis is not worth it unless you learn the lesson and then share the lesson. So
Mm-hmm.
you get to give that little gangly girl in that room, I'm assuming it was gangly. She's gangly in my mind.
Oh, she was gangly. Yeah, for sure. Just,
You get to just hanging out. You get to give her the gift of it all being worth it.
yeah. No, that really
All right.
warms my heart. Yeah.
I'm gonna try. That's what I do on my podcast recordings.
But it's true. I mean, I think you've done a great job of walking me through how do you go through that story. I think this is going to be like such a good episode for listeners because they get to hear me go through it in the hot seat. So thank you for that. But
You're welcome, I guess. It depends if you're gonna thank me when we turn the recording off. You're like, what the hell did you just do? I was not ready for that today.
no. No, I was. I mean, I must have been ready because it
You
just
must have
happened.
been ready because that's what happened.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And then, as you said before, we have so many stories, and to write all of these down, and then suddenly you have a library of really moving talks that you could give.
Absolutely. That's what
Oh,
it's about.
it's so good. Well, okay, I had a whole list of questions we didn't get to, but I don't care because that was amazing.
Sorry. Sorry. But
Um,
I think that people will find this valuable. And if you
yeah,
have other questions, I would be happy to answer them for you and for anybody else that wants to reach out.
thank you. Aleya, where can people find you again?
You can find me at aleyaharris.com, me and all of the things that I do. That's ALEYAHARRIS.com. I am the same on Instagram. But if you really want to support me, one, review this episode that Samantha has so wonderfully participated in and hosted. And two, go buy my book on Amazon, Spark the Stage, and leave a review for that as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Aleya. And thank you, listeners. Again, my name is Sam. You can find me at growwith_Sam and growwithsam.com.